Yeah.
Okay. 3.7.
Yes.
Dasatundriyani.
Yeah. Yastindriyani manasa niyamyarabhaterjuna karmendriyai karmayogam asaktas savishishyate.
Yeah. So we had ended on this verse last time, and we were talking. On the other hand, the organs of and by the power of his will and remaining unattached undertakes the yoga of selfless action through those organs. Arjun, he excels. So last time we were talking about sense organs. Sense organs are not our enemies, but we need to channelize them, we need to harness them and put them in the right direction. Like a little child has to be trained, has to be disciplined. So when the child is disciplined and functions in the right manner, a lot can be achieved rather than just wasting time and just wasting time in playing mischief or doing whatever he wants. So this is the whole message of this shloka, that control the organs and employ them in selfless action, employ them in the right direction, do whatever is necessary. So first he says control the mind. Through the mind you control the indriya. And then what do you do with the karma indriyas? You put them in karma yoga. And how do you put them in karma yoga? Asakta, unattached. Such a man excels. That is the message of this shloka. That use your organs, but use them in. So shall we move to the next one?
But Ashaji, just one question. Uh, in the Hindi translation, niyamya, niyamya has been translated as vash mein karke. And
Correct. Control.
Sunil ji gave a beautiful example last time of the horses. So horses were not controlled as we say, put a rein on him and then bring him into your control. That is reining. But wo vash mein karna. So he was the horses were brought into vasha. That niyam. So in English we translate it as niyamya as control. But in Hindi, we can translate it as vash mein lana. That means by making it friendly and then asking it to do what you would like it to do. So
Rapport.
that seems to be the difference in translation here in Hindi.
That also has a great meaning. The meaning is to build up a rapport. So when we take an example from the day-to-day life of a horse also, of a child also, you have to build up a rapport. You can't just shout and get your way around. And also the story which was narrated last time said it took him 1 full year. It takes years to control them. And in the previous verse, he also says, don't be a hypocrite. Slowly build a rapport. Direct your mind, direct the senses to another direction. So it is all done with love. Even for yourself, there are those sam, dam, danda, bed. Different things are used. We can't be violent in any kind of measure, like tapa, like tapa which is done without thinking, just unnecessarily stopping from doing certain things. Even they may be right. So that unnecessary control. See, in the tapa and swadhyaya go together. Swadhyaya is study. Understand why you're doing the tapa. Don't just control. How much to control? I spoke about it last time. How much to control, when to use. All these, the intellect has to be used always. Then only with love, with satkar sevito, like the Abhyas, the Sutra on Abhyas says, that constantly work on them, but do it with devotion. Do it with love. And then the sense become your servants. then the mind is a, then there is no that rust, that longing, that desire goes away, and automatically the senses are under control. It's a process. So you're right in your translation, sir. So
Can I, sorry, just add a little? Sir, while on the point of tapa, and in this context, I think 80% of what, what kind of goes for, or what is referred to as tapa is not tapa at all. With all this, lying on a bed of nails, raising one hand and, ears and all that. See, all this is you're trying to trying to force. It's a violent process. If it is, I mean, 80% of the time, the sadhus, due to, I'm not audible?
now it's fine. Between
Yeah.
you got, yeah.
Okay. So, any tapa which is done so with force and without understanding, not with a view to befriend, but with a view to force something, is really not tapa at all. Right? So, the same with, I mean, after all, suppose you stand on one leg for 10 years or 20 years. What you're doing is deadening the faculties. If you're lying on a bed of nails, all that happens if you do it without understanding or without sensitivity. It's only the skin which becomes insensitive. After a while, the skin stops responding. The stimuli are no longer there because the being is not listening. Right? So, like is indicated here, anasakt hokar अपन इंद्रियों के साथ रैपो बिल्ड करें. So also tap bhi jo hai, it should be as a process of building rapport with whatever faculty that you are exercising. So a lot goes on in our country in the name of Gita and tap and things, which may not be the real thing.
So the voice breaking every time, and I couldn't hear much of it, but I think we'll begin with the shloka.
Yes. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karma jyayo yakarmanaha sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhed akarmanaha.
So he says that therefore do your bounden duty, your allotted duty, niyatam. For action is superior to inaction. Desisting from action, you cannot even maintain your body. So even the physical existence depends on mobility. So action is a must. But what kind of action? Duty. Niyatam duty, your bounden duty. So now what are our duties, we may ask. What are our duties? We don't know. Half the people don't know what are their duties. So now Vinoba Bhave puts it in one of the almost the last chapters, in chapter 17. He says, see, we are born with institutions. We are born with it. So we can't ask what is our duty. We are born with a body. Obviously, so we have to maintain the body. It is the body which is going to take us through on our journey. Second, we are born to a set of parents, grandparents, siblings. They were all grandparents and parents were already there. Our uncles, aunts, family, they were already there before we were born. So we are born into that stream. So we have a duty. In short, we have a duty to society. Our teachers were already born. They were there before us. And family, the people around us. And the third thing we are born with is the creation around us. The fruits, the flowers, the trees, the sun, moon, stars, everything is there before us. So then it becomes to do these things, to look after our body, to look after our parents, society, citizens, and of course that we don't waste the resources we have in the environment. So these are our natural duties, and we have to do these duties. And then he adds it, he says, even the physical mobility will not be possible if you don't do any action. You have to get up, you have to get up, you have to eat, you have to excrete, you have to do certain things. So there is no sitting and talking, there is work. You have this work. That's it. So this is what this verse is saying. So he's going on stressing the importance of right action and doing it. Yes, sir. So
there are number of interpretations of this word, and this verse, Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam, has been used to justify the caste system and Chaturvarnya, the four Varnas. And everything revolves around this word Niyatam, Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam. Because in this translation also, it is said Shastra Niyatam means Shastra Vihitam, that which has been assigned by the Shastras. And actually, it can be interpreted also in the light of what we said in the verse 3.7. Because in 3.7, the indication is Manasa Niyamya. So Niyatam means whatever has been Manasa Niyamya. That is another interpretation. So, but unfortunately,
sir,
what has happened Unfortunately, what has happened is that the conventional interpretation has stressed the meaning of Niyatam as assigned.
They are listed very clearly in our Shastras, and there shouldn't be any conflict if everybody carries out their duties. There will be no disturbance in the world. The problem is that people are not doing the correct duties as enjoined by the scriptures. First of all, nobody is read about what is my duty. And
No, that is what I'm saying. There is another interpretation which is in the light of 3.7.
Correct.
So, Niyatam karma Niyatam means whatever has been Niyatam by Manasa.
Yeah.
Yasturindriyani Manasa Niyamyarabhate Arjuna.
Right.
So Niyatam can be interpreted as that where the karmendriyas are regulated by the manas, and it has nothing to do with what is assigned to me by the society, family, etc.
Right. Yeah.
That is another interpretation possible, I am saying.
Yeah. Yeah. But finally, we have to come to the same conclusion that we have to control, that we have to regulate is a good word. The organs, the mind has to be at a higher plane, and the right duties be carried out. So in short, that would be the meaning, and that is what one has to learn and practice.
Right.
To say, yeah.
Ashti, would the hierarchy of duties, as we have learned, would that be relevant or applicable or useful here?
Yes, also because the hierarchy of duties also have the same thing. First, duty towards yourself, which is keeping the mind in a controlled and a balanced state. Second, duty towards family. So that comes a society around you. The work is also the society around you. Duty to self, family, work. Then duty to the world. Then
the larger community.
Duty to society, and then duty to the nation and the humanity at large. So it comes to the same thing. You see, the whole thing is that these are not step-by-step duties. They are all intermingled. The moment you balance your mind, which is the first step, the Samatvam word in chapter 2, he says, the moment your mind is in the right condition, everything just flows. Everything just happens. You yourself become a law-abiding citizen. You yourself do not waste things of the universe. You do not indulge. You become a very the right things. It's knowledge do not to do. It just comes when your mind is in a balanced state.
So, in some way, a swadharm or the bodh अपने ड्यूटी का कर्तव्य का बोध जो है वो सेरिब्रल ना हो के एक सो टू से अनुभव एक्सपीरियंशियल या एग्जिस्टेंशियल एक अनुभूति है. Would it be right to say that?
वो एक मॉडर्न इंटरप्रिटेशन है सर सुनील जी, ये
नहीं,
आपका वो
ये
मॉडर्न
तो
है,
मैं अपने हिसाब से बोल रहा
करेक्ट
हूँ.
है, but you know it moves towards freedom and it then places the individual in his own right and free from social norms in a way. When the moment you say existential meaning, it will place the individual free of social control or regulation.
नहीं sir, that I would, at least I do not mean it that way, because it's impossible.
Okay.
It's impossible to free. In fact, neither desirable nor feasible to be free or to extricate oneself from the larger world of which you're a part. In fact, your existence itself, if you remember, in chapter 3, Engage, we were discussing the definition of individual.
Right.
And we said individual, while on one hand is an isolated entity, and yet if we split the term, individual, not divisible, you're part of an integral whole. Right? So I would not agree with the notion that it, I mean, at least I would not subscribe to the notion that this leaves us free from social, that at all times we are, we are bound by the setting in which we exist, even at an existential level. That's what we exist, but we exist in a context, and without the context, any explanation, any interpretation, कोई भी बोध बिना proper context के वो misinterpret ही होता है, गलत ही होता है. So in that sense, well, of course, people can, you see, people always find meanings which they want to find.
Can begin with 3.9. Not able to hear anybody.
Sometimes
We can hear you.
Yeah.
the voice breaks.
Sorry, my talk.
Yeah.
No, sometimes your voice breaks. You know.
So should I go to 3.9?
Yes, please go.
Yes, please, sir.
Yes.
यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गः समाचर.
Okay. So
Hello? आपको हाँ 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 ठीक है, दूंगा. ठीक है, शाम को.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
No.
I couldn't hear anybody. I missed everything of what went on. So, shall we begin now? What should we do? Shall we begin with 3.9?
Yes.
Okay.
We could
Yeah.
write it.
Sir had recited that verse. So I think, please, if you could recite again.
Okay.
ज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोऽन्यत्र लोकोऽयं कर्मबन्धनः तदर्थं कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्तसङ्गः समाचर.
Okay. So it says that man is bound by his own action except when it is performed for sacrifice. Therefore, Arjun, do you efficiently perform your duty, free from attachment for the sake of sacrifice alone? So it says that bandhan of the karma bandhan will happen if you work with attachment. But if you work without attachment, then there is no karma bandhan. If you do your duties which are to be done, then the work sets you free. So basically, this whole concept of karma yoga, which is coming in the Gita, is that to use the ladder of work, freedom, for self-realization. So you can use bhakti, you can use karma, you can use knowledge. But at the beginning of this chapter, he says that you cannot go to the step of knowledge without karma. So karma is a means to gain the knowledge, the highest knowledge which will set you free. Finally, it is all the knowledge. And what is the knowledge? That God alone is real and this body is a means. It's the body is not real, God is real. This creation is not real, but the creator is real. Right? So basically that you cannot escape your karma. You have to do it. And you can't waste time in indulging in the material things and indulging in the creation and forgetting the creator. Better change your direction towards the creator. All the knowledge will come. All the knowledge as to what to do, what not to do will also come. And then that's a stepping stone to freedom. So any questions or discussion? Okay.
What is yagya? What does yagya refer to here?
Yeah, yagya, correct. Yagya is that sacrifice. Yagya would be sacrifice, literal translation, but let us see what Sir has to say. Ashutosh Sir, what would you say about yagya? Yagya Tata?
Propitiate, to propitiate the higher powers which exist in nature. So
What is
by
higher
offering,
powers?
the elemental powers are there, the natural
What do you
elements,
offer?
and they represent the elemental powers. So we propitiate them by offering, by making offering.
What do we offer, Sir?
We offer material things as well as we offer our ego, in the sense that I am in a position to control the nature. So that ego I offer, I sacrifice.
Okay.
And I want to live in harmony. So not only I, but a group of people want to live in harmony with nature. And they, in a way, sacrifice their collective ego that we are in a position to conquer nature. So we make that offering.
Okay.
So in a way, we offer our ego, you might say. Yeah.
Could we also say here that we are offering the fruit of our actions? हमारे कर्म का जो है वो हम as a यज्ञ की तरह मतलब ऑफर कर रहे हैं to existence या to higher powers.
Fruit तो हमारे हाथ में है नहीं. Fruit is in the hands of nature.
हाँ, correct.
So we cannot offer the fruit to nature. It belongs to nature already. In that sense. Yeah.
Correct, sir. Correct. Actually, so maybe we are offering our efforts. एफर्ट्स तो हमारे जो भी थोड़े हाथ में होते हैं अपन
जी
वो ऑफर कर देते हैं, not as a way of for ego, not for ego satisfaction, but offering it to the higher powers. कि हमारा ये मतलब आपके प्रति वो है,
राइट
और फिर आप इन रिस्पॉन्स जो भी आता है, चाहे फल हो चाहे नहीं हो, चाहे जैसे भी आता है, वो प्रसाद हुआ.
राइट राइट.
Okay. Fine.
But
Mahendra sir,
if we go back to, if we go back to second
yeah.
chapter,
Sorry.
yajnas are part of Vedas, and Vedas are about 3 gunas. And in the second chapter, he says you become free of 3 gunas. Nistraigunyo bhavarjuna. Traigunya vishaya Veda, nistraigunyo bhavarjuna. So in a way, he's saying that, what is being told is that once you are in the world, as you were saying earlier, once you are placed in the world, you will have to do several things. But then you have to become free of attachment. Mukta sangas samachara. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. So even when you do 3 things for the 3 gunas in the form of yajna, but even then you perform mukta sangha. So as Ashaji was stressing that part, mukta sangha samachara.
okay. So we'll
I
hear
think
Mahendra
it's,
sir and then we'll.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's I think it's talking about two things, not one. It is using the word yajna is the offering to others. I am eliminated. Offering to others, this is one, and work with detachment. Now, detachment is one thing, and the offering to others. Now, these are the 2 stages when the work, the karma is to be performed, and that leads to the karma bandhana mukta stage. So, first detachment, then with the intention that the work is being offered to somebody else, yajna. Yajna is being performed, the offering is being performed to somebody else. So that 2 concepts taken together lead us to a state what is known as karma bandhan mukta. I feel it so.
In the light of our earlier discussion,
Yes.
there is also another interesting part here, and that is the sentence. That is the statement "Lokoyam karma bandhana." That means
Yes.
whatever context you are placed in, that is loka. Whatever context you are placed in, this loka is going to be bound by karma. And there will not be only karmas for offering, there will be other karmas also for self satisfaction or self consumption. Yajnarthat, there are karmas for yajna and there are karmas otherwise. Yajnarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. So you have to be in the loka, but you have to perform those sacrificial karmas without attachment, in detachment. So in a way, he's saying that you may also be drawn towards loka. That context, you may be drawn towards the context, but don't do that. You perform those sacrificial works without attachment. So because the first time he is bringing in loka here, the concept of loka. Manushya samudaya.
Is it talking about something aniyat karma? The first one is talking about niyata karma. And is it talking about the aniyata karma also, that is also to be performed with detachment and as sacrifice?
Okay.
Right.
So, well, one question, Sunilji, you said what is yajna? So, see, I would go by Vinoba Bhave's translation, where he says yajna is nothing but to reimburse or to give to society what we have already received.
Right.
Said that we are already born with a body. Niyatam, everything has to be bound in everything has to be niyatam. You have a body, you have to look after the body. You were born in the society, you are born in this universe. It just becomes that you have to do those things. You have to give back to society what you have already received. We are already existing stream. We are not the first person who is born on earth. So yagya is nothing to give back what we have received from the universe.
Yeah,
In
that's
short,
very good.
in short, that is what we can have 1,000 interpretations, lakhs of
But
people reading.
that ties everything together, I feel. Right? You act in a way that we are giving back what we already received.
Yes,
So
I
that
had, yeah. Last a few classes back, I had read something about Albert Einstein saying that 100 times a day I remind myself that I have to give back to the universe what I have received.
correct.
If a person who is not an Indian also, who has not read the Bhagavad Gita, if he gets that kind of an intuition that I have already received so much from this world, it just becomes my duty to give back. And when I can give back only when I don't indulge. This whole concept will get clearer as we go on reading. So read the next verse and then it will become even more clearer.
Yeah.
Saha yagya.
सहयज्ञ प्रजा सृष्ट्वा पुरोवाच प्रजापतिः अनेन प्रसविष्यध्वम् एषवोस् द्विष्ट कामधुक्.
So it says, having created mankind along with Yakshana. At the beginning of creation, the creator Brahma said to them, you shall prosper by this. May this yield the enjoyments you seek. So, Sir Yagya means, sir, what you rightly said, together, all of us put in the effort. With Yagya. Sir Yagya, that means along with sacrifice, Brahma created this world, mankind, Praja. So the thing is that everything has a noble thing. You work, you put in the effort, the rituals as enjoined by the Vedas, everything is directed to a nobler cause. And then when you put it into a nobler cause, you receive. Or it can have another meaning, as it says that whatever you desire, you will get, but put your efforts in the right direction. How would we look at it?
You had drawn our attention a couple of classes back to Vyasdev saying at the museum entrance.
Yeah. Mahendra sir had said, yeah, I'm screaming at the top of my voice with both my arms up. Why are you not carrying out your natural duties? Just by doing your duties, you will get dharma, artha, kama, moksha, whatever. Yeah, you will get whatever you seek. So now here, the senses can also be the gods. Like sir was saying, what is yagya? He said sacrificing. Offering what? To the elements. To whom? To the elements. What are see, the senses are also elements only, no? The sense of where does all this come from? The senses come from the elements. Or from the elements come the senses. The Tanmatra, the Mahabhut, if you go into Sankhya details. So if you take senses as gods, you move in the right direction with your senses. You regulate them, you go in the right direction, but this is not only about material things for myself, it is for the greater good. Everything I do is directed to a nobler cause. And then I will get whatever I desire. Now, in the next verse, also he says, what is it that that person is going to get? What am I going to get out of it? So if you have anything to say on this, so we can move to the next verse.
Yeah.
And then we can discuss of them together.
Yes, that is better.
Yeah. देवान् भावयतान् येन ते देवा भावयन्तु वः परस्परं भावयन्तः श्रेयः परमवाप्स्यथ.
Yeah. So it says, foster the gods through this sacrifice and let the gods be gracious to you. Thus, each fostering the other selflessly, you will gain the highest good. So it's creating the right feeling. Even if you're doing chanting, even if you're doing rituals, whatever you're doing, you have to do it with feeling. You invoke them. When you start invoking, when you start using the things in the right direction, it's basically a feeling. A feeling, when that feeling is very selfish, that it's all for me, then nothing really happens. The greater good will happen only when there is a feeling about everybody. When I truly understand that I'm already born into this stream of existence, that I'm already born to a set of parents, to the universe, I already have a body, and what am I supposed to do? When I think deeply, when I think of of everybody around me, then things come back to me. We are all working together in this. So I also would think that when you work like this, it gives you a direction. Otherwise, it's just selfish and you go in the wrong direction. That's how I would look at it. When you have regulated your senses, you have some mission, you have some goal, and you're working towards something, you're in the right direction. Otherwise, if you have not controlled your senses and you're just working aimlessly, then there is no good happening because you don't know where to walk. You don't know which path to take. You're just moving in all directions. So we can take a literal meaning that when you nourish the senses, when they are taken harnessed in the right direction, you get what you're working for. Everybody can please share their views.
Yeah, see, I would agree. Yeah, I think what you said was very correct, very right. That when you are working for others, it actually directs you wonderfully. Certain joy, you derive, whether it's mother working for the child, anyway, that's a biological bond, so that is fine, you can say. But when we are working for, somebody who can benefit from our efforts, see, the sheer joy it provides is something that goads you to do the same thing further. Whereas when you're working for yourself, there may be some pleasure, but don't think there is satisfaction in that. So I agree with what you say in terms of direction setting.
So other views?
This sacrifice, if you take all the three verses together, that is 3.9, 3.10 and 3.11, the sacrifice is not selfless, but it shows that we are interdependent. We are dependent on nature or world, and the world is also dependent on our action. So there is an interdependence. So devan bhavetan ena. So I would not say that yajna here is a selfless sacrifice. It is a sacrificial offering, but to please the gods so that the gods will please me. And I must remember that I have to please the gods. If the gods have to please me, I have to please the gods. So that is in a way he is talking about. That is the reason why the loka is karma bandhana. That's why the world gets bound. And so he's saying that you are going to be part of this world, and this world has this particular inherent characteristic, and you have to live in this world, but you have to also progressively detach yourself.
Okay.
So
yes, sir.
That would be my interpretation. It is
Right.
not because I am looking at what the Lord has said in the chapter 2, that Vedas are Traigunya Vishaya. There is no doubt about it. And you have to become Nistraigunya. So we cannot, keep that out of sight.
Right, true.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you say is very right. Okay, Mahendra sir, आपको कुछ बोलना है?
I think it's talking about the all the three. You gain by giving, not by acquisition. If you want to acquire something, you better give it. Acquisition is not suggested in these three, as I believe. So they're offering to the God that whatever I have done, give it for somebody else, and he will in turn. Of course, without the expectation or interpretation that God is going to give you. And here I'm reminded of again the Vyasa. He says, you get it. You will get it. The methodology that has been explained that the God will give, that's a concept. But that should not be kept in mind that I am giving and therefore he will give. So this concept is to be stopped. I'm giving, and I will get it. That's what Vyasa says there. So my duty or the karma is limited only up to the offering and the giving, not expecting that God is going to give it back. It is his responsibility. He gives or doesn't give, or in what way he suggests. So that's what I take it in this way, that the one acquires something not by equation but by giving up. That's what the concept which has been propagated in the shlokas, as I believe.
Very true, sir. So I'm just going to sum up these three verses, and I'm going to give an anecdote.
Yes.
The Devas and the Asuras are invited they go to Brahma and they ask him, who's the best of us all? So Brahma says, come tomorrow. So he invites them to a huge fancy lunch, and but he paralyzes their hands. And then he says this. So he says, so they say, how do we eat? We can't eat. We can't even lift up our hands. And the Asuras started fighting. They started sleeping on the floor, licking the food and hitting each other and fighting for the food. Then the Devas started thinking. They said, how do we eat the food? So they started feeding each other. Right? So what the one Deva picks up the hand, his hand comes till here, but he puts it in the other person's mouth, and the other Deva puts it in his mouth. That's the way they feed each other.
Yes.
So this story will summarize this is how we are supposed to work in the world. And this thing will also explain the next verse to us. Just have to keep this in mind that we are already born into this existence. We have to nourish each other, not just keep everything for ourselves. And this is a story in the scriptures.
A beautiful
Share.
story.
Or help each other, feed each other.
Yeah. Very nice story.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is how the three verses can be summarized. So we can go to 3.12.
Yeah. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva dasyante yajna bhavitaha taidattan apradayebhyo yo bhunte stena eva saha.
Yeah. So it says, fostered by sacrifice, the gods will surely bestow on you unasked all the desired enjoyments. He who enjoys the gifts bestowed by them without offering anything to them in turn is undoubtedly a thief. He uses the word stena. So you are getting so much in this world. You're born with nothing. Already the clothes are there for you. Everything, the house is there for you. The food is there for you. Everything is there. The sun, moon, everything is there for you. Now it just becomes your nityam, your bounden duty to give back. The interpretation of yajna as to reimburse or put back what we have already received. So keep offering because you have received. It becomes your natural duty. You don't offer because you want to offer, but you've already got so much. You give a gift, but you already got so many gifts, so you don't feel obliged. I mean, you don't feel that you don't feel egoistic that I'm doing anything. You're already feeling obliged that I have got so much. You're already obliged. And so you give to reimburse, to put back, because you have received so much. If that is the attitude, then I think it makes a lot of sense.
See, also, prayer, for example, true prayer is nothing but offering gratitude to the Lord, saying that, you've been so kind and wonderful. Look, so much you've given me. And,
Yeah.
this asking and bargaining that I will give you so much, you give me, and that, oh Lord, you're not listening to me. I need this, I need that. That's not prayer at all.
Yes.
So actually, this one also ties into the true concept of prayer. How do we interact with the gods is by really thanking them for what we've received, and in turn, through the natural order, we keep receiving.
So, and it also gives meaning to that karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. That means you already have received so much. Why do you want to go on, exercising the fruit? You do your work because you've already received so much.
Correct.
So, well, we can think of it in different ways, but or maybe we can share our thoughts and views. So we can do the next verse and then elaborate on together.
यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तो मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापा ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात्.
So he says the virtuous Santa who partake of what is left over after sacrifice are absolved of all sins. The sinful ones who cook for the sake of nourishing their bodies alone partake of sin only. So, being altruistic. So no selfish things, no just feeding and fattening one's own body, fulfilling one's own desires. We are a part of the whole, and so we nourish ourselves along with the whole. In short, would be this verse. And then he says, you're free from all sins. Take anything unnecessarily from the world. I've received, I give back, I take what is necessary. Matter over, my mind is peaceful. He will come to that. He will santushta. This word also. I'm peaceful. In the later verses, he'll come to that. That is the whole purpose of Karma Yoga. The whole purpose is to purify the mind through work. Through work, I attain joy. Through work, I attain peace. I attain that calmness. Through work, I attain samatvam.
So, I was in boarding school, and prior to food, the prayer that we had to kind of recite was Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu.
Yeah.
So I guess what it meant was we, इसका अर्पण हम आपको
Yeah.
करते हैं, और फिर जो प्रसाद जो भी खाते हैं वो वैसे आपका प्रसाद है, वो हम खा रहे हैं,
Right.
ग्रहण कर रहे हैं.
True, true.
Sunil, we start our session with the Sahanavavatu.
जी.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yes.
it's talking about that you cannot take without offering. Take without offering, either you are a sinful or you are a saint. That's what in these two shlokas is being said.
Yeah.
The offering first is important before accepting. There's a calendar just before me. It talks of one line: needs are essentials, luxuries are not.
Yeah. So see, when a mother serves the food, last time we had narrated that she gives it to everybody and then she is the last one to eat. So
Yes.
when you earn money, when you take it as earning money, earning a profit, you offer it to all the people who have helped you. And even if you are working alone and you're gathering everything yourself, you're a sole businessman or a sole entrepreneur, what do? The scriptures still tell you that you have to donate a part of your earnings. 1/10 of your earnings in the Arthashastra or in the even the Catholics, they call it a tithing or tithing, Tithing. Even in the Bible, it is mentioned that you offer 1/10 of your earnings, you donate it to the needy. So in all the scriptures, dan or offering is also there. Even if you take the literal meaning, that if you earn also, first you give it to everybody and then you take the remaining thing. He says the remnants of the sacrifice. Yagya Shishtashin.
Sorry. Even at a mundane level, I mean, I think when you're sitting, say we're going on a train, there are 6 people, sitting together. Now I have suppose a bottle of water or some little laddus to eat or something. I found the very act of us, offering and saying, aap lijiye, wo le na le, but the kind of bonhomie and the kind of the oneness that it creates transforms the whole atmosphere,
Yes.
right? So the whole the attitude or this little offering, say, माने in actual thing also, वो situation transform हो जाती है.
True.
So it's not just theoretical, it's not just the scripture, so it is not माने ऊंचा ज्ञान ही नहीं है, but I
Yeah.
feel in the mundane life also,
True.
it actually works very well.
Yes. Very true.
Thread, continuing the same thread, Sunil ji,
जी,
one can also say that we have to give back to the system, which makes it possible for us to exist and carry on our activities.
correct,
We
sir.
normally neglect the maintenance aspect of the system.
Yes,
We only use the system for our own purpose. We use the ecology, earth, only for extracting. And we never care about sustaining the system.
correct.
So, in that sense, it is a very ecological perspective
Yeah.
that
Very
we
true.
have to sustain. We have to sustain ourselves and we have to sustain this Mother Earth.
Right.
In fact, sustain Mother Earth, and in turn, Mother Earth will sustain us.
That's right.
That's
That's
what
right.
the whole thing we started with Vinoba's explanation, that we are born in these institutions, the universe, the society, the body. It just becomes a natural thing to give back, to do, sustaining each other. Right? So we can go on to the next verse. We've clearly understood these shlokas very well.
अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्याद् अन्न संभवः यज्ञाद् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञ कर्म समुद्भवः
So we'll do
कर्म
the next
ब्रह्मोद्
verse. Yeah.
कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षर समुद्भवम् तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम्.
Yeah. So he says all beings are evolved from food. Production of food is dependent on rain. Rain is ensues from sacrifice. Sacrifice is rooted in the prescribed action. Know that prescribed action has its origin in the Vedas, and the Vedas proceed from the indestructible God. Hence, the all-pervading infinite is always present in sacrifice. So it all goes back to one thing, the Creator and His creation. How does the creation come about from the Creator? So the beings are born, the beings are nourished by food. The food comes from rain. Rain comes from sacrifice, sacrifice comes from action, action comes from the creator, from Brahma. If we say Brahma comes from the imperishable God, Brahman. The whole thing is that carrying on this work, carrying on the cycle, whole ritual is like interdependency on each other. And if any one of us breaks this cycle, we are kind of a thief or we are kind of not doing our duties. So carrying on this wheel of action, where we all put in our efforts and we will all receive what is due to us. The nature cycle continues and we are part of nature. We just have to put our shoulder to the wheel. So anything?
Yeah, see, this rain comes from sacrifice. What kind of here?
Rain would be, you see the result, the fruit. It's raining. It's raining money. It's raining things. Everything. See, whatever is the result is the rain. I receive that. When I work, I receive it. The rain is not possible if I work. There are other forces which make it possible, right? So the rain comes from God only, from that action. I do the action on earth, but the result will come from the combination of a large force or larger forces. That's how I would look at it.
See, even in the literal.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying even literally, see, when there are areas when it doesn't rain for a long time,
Yeah.
at least in our country,
Yeah.
we have known that, the villages or the communities would offer actual yajna and sacrifice to
Correct.
propitiate the gods and, have, so that, they kind of provide rain.
Yeah.
So I suppose sustenance. In a way, rain is the symbol and embodiment of all those forces or those elements which help sustain us.
Right. So even if we take the literal translation of the Vedas, see, the Vedas are the oldest and the earliest scriptural records. Oh, what is to be done, not to be done, all these prescribed actions are already mentioned there. But then now he says that it shouldn't be for selfish reasons. See, in India, we all have mantra chanting. We have the rituals for so many gains. You want anything, you can do a mantra for it. You have a prescribed action. All that is there in the Vedas. But here he says that you have to use it for selfless action, for sustaining the universe, and you can't be a thief and take it all by yourself. Even if you pray, you get something, it is to be shared in this universe because you are a part of the universe. That is how I would look at it. Your views, please.
Sunilji, as you were saying, that we have to also look at this in the context of today, very rightly. And then I think we'll have to move away from the literal meaning of yajna.
Yeah.
And the example that you gave of villages performing actual home and havan, I think that would be a very literal meaning, but it doesn't produce rain, as we know today. Yeah, what produces rain is the ecological cycle and our sustaining that ecological cycle. So I think it would be better to interpret yajna away from the literal meaning in today's context and talk about all those actions which lead to sustainability. So sustenance. And if we do global warming, if we have more of consumption of fossil fuels, we are not contributing to sustenance. And that is going to affect rain. And then I think we also have to interpret rain as investment of resources.
Correct. Very true.
It is investment.
Yes.
And investment of resources. And anna is the product that we consume and which gives us our livelihood and sustenance in turn. So I would imagine that yajna will have to be interpreted in terms of actions of sustainability, or what you might call as sustenance. And in that light, Swami Chinmayanand used to call his Gita discourses as Gita Jnana Yajna. He would call it Gita Jnana Yajna. That means he is sustaining the whole Gyan, cycle of Gyan. And what we are doing also, you, Ashaji, and Sabir Bhai, and Jayakumar ji, you are passing on that knowledge to us. In a
Sir,
way,
we are-
you are offering that to a wider audience, whatever you have received, and together we are trying to sustain that tradition of Gyan. So it is a yajna in that sense, what we are doing, and I think
Yes.
that meaning would be more appropriate to the current context.
I would say, sir, I would submit even earlier in any yajna. See, whatever we are offering, that samidha and that samagri and all that is just symbolic. See, the thing is, वहां बैठ के आपकी भावना जो बदल जाती है, राइट, उससे जो इकोसिस्टम इफेक्ट होता है, और शायद देन वी स्टार्ट टू गेट रिसोर्सेज. जब हमारी भावना वैराग्य की या हमारी भावना सबमिशन की हो जाती है यज्ञ में बैठ के, राइट, इसीलिए कहते हैं यज्ञ में आके बैठ के, इट्स नॉट कि भाई दो चार यज्ञ कर रहे हैं उन्हीं का, बट जस्ट ऑल दोस पीपल हु कम एंड यज्ञ में बैठ के उनकी जो भावना और चेतना बदल जाती है, लेस सेल्फिशनेस एंड मोर सबमिशन. I think that's what eventually, makes the requisite changes so that resources, whether rain or sun or whatever it is, come our way. So even earlier, I feel that यज्ञ में जो है, जो लिटरल चीजें हम देते हैं, उससे ज्यादा भावना में चेंज होता है, वो ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है.
Very true.
ये अभी हम मान के चलते हैं कि पहले भी वो सिंबॉलिक हुआ करता था, लेकिन एक समय ऐसा भी आया था कि वो सिंबॉलिक नहीं रहा था और वो लिटरल हो गया था.
Of course.
तभी जाकर गुरु नानक देव जी को कहना पड़ा कि ये सब आप जो कर रहे हैं, ये लोगों को बुलाने के लिए कर रहे हैं. और फिर उनको उसका जो खोखलापन था लिटरल मीनिंग का, वो खोखलापन उनको लोगों के सामने लाना पड़ा. तो एक समय ऐसा भी आया था कि लोग इसको लिटरल मीनिंग लेके चल रहे थे.
बिल्कुल सर. अच्छे से अच्छा कॉन्सेप्ट विकृत हो जाता है इन प्रैक्टिस ओवर टाइम. तो यज्ञ का के कॉन्सेप्ट भी शायद ऐसा ही हो गया था. यू राइट.
So yeah, we come to that same thing, that work has to be done in a balanced way, thinking of the larger good, and this bhav which you spoke of, feeling. The right feeling has to be there when you do any kind of work. In fact, going back to Vinoba Bhave, he says through work, like I said, work is used as a ladder, as a means to reach the highest. Now, how do you use the work as a ladder? By putting in the right feeling, by thinking beyond that little I, and by, thinking of the larger good. Now, this feeling is so important because this feeling makes you concentrate on the action. And when you are into that action, when you're totally absorbed into the action with your bhav, with your feeling, then what comes out of it is knowledge. So he gives a lot of examples in this chapter, and he gives the example of Tuladhar from Mahabharata. So Tuladhar was a Brahmin, and Tuladhar was a grocer. He was a grocer selling grains, and a Brahmin, Jajali, goes to him. And Jajali is directed to him because Jajali is a Brahmin and he's into these Vedas and scriptures and knowledge and all this kind of things, but he still hasn't reached the highest. So he is directed to Tuladhar. Somebody tells him, go to Tuladhar and he will on this path of self-realization. So he says, Tuladhar is a grocer. Why would I be a grocer? So anyway, he goes to him, and Tuladhar tells him only one thing, that I have not read anything, but I have understood one thing. I keep my balance even My balance is always kept even. I never give a grain more to anybody or a grain less. And I don't see the person in front of me as a child or a rich person or a poor person. For me, the balance is always my of mind, and I have gained the right knowledge. So he says, whatever work you are doing, wherever you are placed in life, all that is already ordained for you. Just flow with it. Go deeper into it. Put all your heart, mind, soul, your feeling into it, and you will gain the knowledge. Don't fight. Don't fight your karma. Don't say, I don't want to do this and don't want to do that. At the end of this chapter, we are slowly coming to it. Just that's what he's telling Arjun. This has come to you, just do it. Don't bring in your likes and dislikes. This is not for your selfish reason. Do it and you will gain the highest. And when the victory also comes, it's not for you alone. So many people together are fighting the war. It is not because of one single person. So the whole story of the Mahabharata also comes in this picture. Because basically he's telling Arjun, do your duty. That's all. Do it with feeling. Now add. He's elaborating chapter 3. Put your mind into it. Put your heart into it. And you will reach the highest. So now we'll just read one more verse to get more clarity and then we'll wind up. We have 4 minutes.
Yes.
Evam pravartitum.
Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayah aghayurindriyaramo mogam parthat jivati.
Right. Arjun, he who does not follow the wheel of creation, thus set in motion in this world, does not perform his duties, leads a sinful and sensual life, he lives in vain. So he says this motion, this wheel of motion, it's already there. You're not doing anything great by doing your duties. You have to do it. It is your bounden duty. It is your niyatam karma. So the question is, are we doing our duties or are we interfering in the wheel which is already there in motion? Because we are interfering, there is chaos in the world. Because these things were taken so literally, there was chaos in the world. So all this makes me mean that I have to do everything for the greater good. Flowing with the work, flowing with our duties. I'm already born into a stream of existence and I just join, I just flow along. Okay, so
This is the whole notion of, sorry.
yes.
No, I'm saying this whole notion of yajna or sacrifice or offering before, I feel just transforms even the actions that we do, even as a part of the hierarchy of duties. The moment bhavana is an offering unto the larger world or the gods or creation, whatever that may be. I think the whole thing changes.
Yeah. I would still very strongly go by that I've already received so much. It just becomes my moral, my duty. I'm just giving back. There is no ego or there's nothing in it.
Very true.
Just give back what I have received. That's all. Yeah. So we have 1 minute. Mahendra sir, you want to say something? Aapka mic chalu hai. We have 2 minutes.
No, nothing to add at present.
Okay. Ashutosh sir, we have 2 minutes.
I'm receiving so much. I'm already receiving so much that I don't know whether I'll be able to ever repay.
Sir.
So with this feeling, I think we can end today's
We can
session.
check with Jay Kumar. Jay Kumar, we want to say something.
Oh yes.
No, I'm enjoying your discussion.
Okay.
I'm listening now.
All right.
Okay, so next Sunday begin from 3.17. And till then, we just